I come to a place of learning, I'm always reminded by the words of a great man who said that the battles of Trafalgar, the future battles of Trafalgar are not going to be won in the waters of the Atlantic, but in the dormitories and fields of Eton. I mean, see, that is the importance of education. I think this Lord Nelson said, it remains a fact that Churchill was a student of Eton. I think Eton or Harrow, whatever, and he is the man who really led England to the war, to the victory in the Second World War. And he said that Hitler would have won, but for the fact that he never studied geography. And he never knew that Russia has a winter. He actually said it. You know, the importance of education cannot be overemphasized. Now, you know, my life, my profession, my passion are equity markets. Right? And to be very frank, I have two interests in life, and not in the wrong sense, markets and women. And both are considered four-letter words. Markets with risk and women with love. And both are interconnected because markets are very much like women. So John Templeton said markets are like women, always commanding, always mistress, always uncertain. Always volatile, always exciting. And you know, if you can figure out markets, you learn how to figure out women better. If you can figure out women, you'll be able to figure out markets better. Right, because both are driven by human psychology, only the psychology is very odd. And anyway, thanks for the kind words and the warm welcome. But you know, it's when I get these words and all these kind of words that I feel I should be most alert. Because the worst of the mistakes are made in the best of the times. Never forget that. You know, I made a presentation where I tried to cover a large number of points. One is the history of markets. One is India's economic growth and its equity markets. One is the inevitability of India's economic growth. Then Indian equity markets in the long run. Asset allocation and compounding, investment approach, exiting from an investment, my life and career, and whatever is the advice I would like to do so. In the history of market, what I find is that a lot of people you know, discuss markets. Some are very excited by markets, some are very contemptuous. But nobody really wants to understand what is the purpose of these markets. Why are the stock markets existing? Are they needed? Can a country do without them? So why did the markets exist at all, or why did they start? See, just prior to the Industrial Revolution, when there was no large international trade, you know, you were basically an agrarian society. There was no need for large capital. But when just before the Industrial Revolution, during and after the Industrial Revolution, there arose the need for large capital, which cannot be provided by single people or single families. Thus was born the idea of the joint stock family, or the joint stock company. Now the people, you all know what are the companies that have limited liability, right? But the people who are owning the shares of the joint stock companies were diverse. They wanted to have a constant ability to sell these shares and have a valuation for these shares. Therefore arose the idea of stock markets and liquidity. So why are stock markets there? They provide capital they transfer capital from owners of capital to people who can use capital, right? In order to provide liquidity and a mechanism by which this can be valued and it can be exited and entered, we had the stock markets. So the stock markets have not come because somebody wanted to create a gambling den, as many people think, right? They have a very big purpose because they transfer capital from users of capital, from owners of capital to users of capital, right? What are these capitals? Capital market, they are the temples of capital allocation, right? And do you understand the importance of capital allocation? Do you know why communism failed? I personally think that as a form of government, communism is a very, very good form. But why did it fail? Because the state allocated capital. And the allocation of capital by the state led to its inefficient use. While in capitalism, it is the markets which allocate capital. Why did Russia fail? Russia was apparently... So see, Russia Why did communism fail? Because the state allocated capital. And that allocation of capital led to inefficient use. Look at the steel industry in Russia, it all closed down. The moment communism was out. So, but it is the stock markets and the markets which allocate capital in capitalist societies. Although there might be some aberration, it's not the end of capitalism, right? Why do you think of Mr. Narottam Seksaria? In 1987, he had 500,000 tons of cement. ACC maybe 15-20 million tons. But by 2002-03, Gujarat Ambuja became one of the top 2 producers of cement in this country. Why? Because he could use capital efficiently. And because he could use capital efficiently, the market gave him far more capital than other companies could raise. So they are the temples of capital allocation. They channelize capital into most productive assets, right? How do you get risk capital? Where are you going to get risk capital? You may be able to get debt. Where are you going to get equity for any project? Right? Whether you do it in an unlisted company, listed company. Most unlisted companies are also funded with the idea that exit will be through listed companies. So for the growth of risk capital, which is the key for the growth of any society, the channels are the equity markets. Could have Mr. Ambani been what he is without the equity markets? Sir Jamshedji Tata would not have put Tata Steel, the 1 million plant in 1900 without the use of public money. So it's very vital. You know, most of the industry in India has been given work through the use of public capital. And that capital has been accessed through the stock markets, right? Then of course it's a barometer of economic environment. The finance minister is always discussing that is the Sensex more greater than his opinion. But the fact remains that for a lot of people, the stock market movements is a barometer of the economic performance of a country, although it may not necessarily be so, right? And finally, it is a way where, you know, savings can be transferred from owners of capital to users of capital. So therefore, don't think that it's a gambling den or something needed, not needed. Mommy will say, daddy will say it's not a good place. Whether good or not good, it is needed. One of the reasons why America had this kind of growth was its cutting edge capital markets, right? Although there have been some problems after that, but it's not the end of the story. So I hope I've been able to explain the purpose of markets. Now, you know, people say I'm called a bull everywhere, although I'm not necessarily a bull. Sometimes I'm also a bear. Only by size people call me bull, right? So, but what I feel is, when I want to talk of Indian equity markets, I want to first talk about Indian economic growth. So a lot of people tell me, why are you talking about economic growth? We're interested in the equity markets. But I want to explain that all valuations are a slave of earnings. What I want to say is that the valuation of any stock ultimately depends on the earnings of the company, right? After that, and earnings are a function of economic growth. It is a recorded fact of economic history that the profit growth of the corporate sector in a country is between 1 to 1.5 times nominal GDP growth. Nominal GDP growth is the GDP growth plus the rate of inflation, right? So if I say that India is going to have 9% GDP growth and 6% inflation, so you have 15% nominal GDP growth. Now, the corporate sector's profit growth is going to be 1 to 1.5 times. Generally, it's 1.2, maybe 1.1, 1.3. So that means what? That if India is going to have 15% nominal GDP growth for the next 5 to 10 years, profit growth in India for the corporate sector will be between 17 to 18% on an average. Some years it could be 12, some years it could be 25. So therefore, a longer term bull market in India is dependent on the growth in corporate earnings. The growth in corporate earnings is dependent on nominal GDP growth. So therefore, before I talk of the long bull market in India, I want to talk about India's economic growth. Because I went to a lot of places and students tell me, sir, why are you giving us a lecture on India's economic growth? We are concerned with the equity markets. So I think it's my duty to explain first the relevance of India's economic growth to India's equity markets. Just as I said, the bull market in equities present and future is a direct derivative of India's economic growth. Right? Now I use the word inevitability of India's economic growth. I am an opinionated character. I had an opinion in 1985 that come what may be, I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I go and invest money in the stock market. So my father said, where is the money that you will invest? Right? But I was an opinionated character. I thought stock market will do well. I went there. I am an opinionated character. I think India's growth is inevitable. We have just seen the trailer. The picture is actually going to start. And why do I feel it is inevitable? I know some of you all must have been students of chemistry. At least you have done. I've been a very bad chemistry student, right? But the fact is that there is a chemistry which leads to an outcome, a combination of factors, right? Now there is a combination of factors in India. I think some are products of history, some are cultural, most are irreversible, which gives me the feeling that India's economic growth is inevitable. Right? And I mean much higher growth than what we have. Not the 5%, 6%, 7%, but 10%, 11%. Why do I feel so? I feel why? Well, India is basically a society of tolerance. See, it was this tolerance which brought the Mughal emperors into India. But what is the modern world about? The modern world is about the ability to anticipate change, accept it, prepare for it, and benefit from it. And rigid minds cannot accept change. If I am taught at home that this is the only truth, don't believe anything else, right? Or you are brought up in a very, confined cultural fact, your mind will never accept change. But because basically Hindutva and Hindu religion is the most tolerant and open, we accept change. That's why we're very good at mathematics and science. In the modern world, societies which are not, if Saudi Arabia cannot accept change, Saudi Arabia cannot grow. It's a fact. If, Burma can't accept change, Burma can't grow. So I think it is the culture of tolerance which is very, very important for India's place in the modern world, right? Then we have skill sets. I don't know how to say how skillful Indians are, and surely it does not only belong to the Indians, to the Mittals and the Yogis, it belongs to every Indian. And I can give you an anecdote that diabetes is the most researched disease. Why? Because the rich get it, they can afford the drugs. The medicines have to be taken every day. And India is the diabetes center of the world. And it's a lifestyle disease everywhere, right? What they have found is that Indians are most diabetic prone. So they did research. They said, is it got to do with diet? Is it got to do with location? But a company did research where any place where the Indian population was more than 0.5%, worldwide they did research, they found Indians are most prone. So they said Indians are genetically prone to diabetes. So if Indians can be so successful worldwide, the skill sets only cannot be of the non-residents. So Indians are genetically prone to skills. It's a fact. It's an analogy at all. Right? And look at our doctors, look at our lawyers. Right? Where is the skill set which is not available? Look at our professors. What is the skill set which is not available in India? How the whole API industry, I don't know, I understand the API industry, the raw material for manufacturing tablets. How it started in India? Because 1967 or 66, Government of India passed an order that Glaxo or any other multinational company has to manufacture the API in India. So they made a plant in India. That was the end of it. Now India is the leading manufacturer of APIs in the world. Indians saw the plant, they transplanted it. They now make it cheaper than the foreigners. Why? We have made the atomic bomb. We have not chosen the technology from anybody. We have not sold it to anybody. It's all indigenous Indian technology. We are now launching space satellites for Israel. Because we do it at 5% of the cost that NASA wants. So there are so many demonstrations of Indian skill sets, right? I mean, I can go on and on and on. So we are a tolerant skill society. Then we are an entrepreneurial society. Only an Indian entrepreneur can put up something like Flame, come to a place from nowhere, right? In the middle of nowhere, and then now dream of creating an educational institution. And Indian entrepreneurial skills, we are among the best entrepreneurs in the world. Billionaires row in London contains only Indians. And we have proved ourselves not only, and see, we have a history and culture of entrepreneurship, right? Then democracy. This is something people don't like. but I like very much. Because it is what slows us down, but it is what keeps us together. Right? And if you see the list of the 15 richest countries in the world, excluding Singapore and Hong Kong, they're all city-states. They don't matter to me. Right? They are all democratic. They don't matter for a... They're like Pune, yaar. I mean, in that importance, finally, if in relevance of India, what is the relevance? Right? We have to take everything in its own, in its own perspective. So therefore, if you see the top 15 nations, those who have had prosperity for the last 50 years, 100 years, they have one quality, they are all democratic. And I think why democracy is, see, we don't like democracy, it's like not liking the husband you have. What about the alternative? So dictatorship, anything can happen. You'll have crony capitalism, the state would be sold. The politicians manage to sell it in democracy. Suppose you have 100% power, I don't know what they'll do. And I think Indian democracy is now maturing. There is big concern. Mrs. Gandhi wants National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Help the rural poor. Why? Because they want the votes. So you want to help the poor because you want their votes. See the power of democracy. And India has got deeply ingrained democracy. For the last 21 years, we have no single party in power in parliament. But all the institutions of democracy, whether it is the army, whether it is the Reserve Bank, whether it is the Company Auditor General, whether it is the judiciary, everything is working independently, and change of government is absolutely as per law. And see, we must understand one thing, that democracy has also evolved in every nation. If I give you anecdotes of what happened in America, you won't sleep at night. Yeah, because in India also the democracy has to evolve. I think that democracy is extremely important, because we don't know if there was no democracy. I don't know if Sanjay Gandhi had become the absolute dictator of this nation, what would have done? Nobody knows. Right? Then we have demographics. See, I think this is extremely important. Every society goes through a demographic evolution. Right? And you've heard of the baby boomers in America. Now, America went through its most prosperous phase because it was in the most favorable demographic phase during those 25 years. Right? And every society goes through this evolution. And for the next 40 years, India is going to have the most favorable demographic profile of any substantial nation in the world. And this cannot be reversed. And China is going to lose it fast because China enforced 1 children. We tried 2, I don't know if we succeeded or not. Right? But the fact remains that this demographics is extremely, extremely favorable. And all societies have had the greatest prosperity when they have gone through this phase. And this can't be reversed. Even if people start having more children or less children now, the effect is going to come 40 years later, not next. So the next 2-3 decades is fixed. Right? Then you have a savings rate. It's very peculiar, you must learn. That when you are poor, you save more. The poor save more than the rich. And empirical evidence shows that where there is no banking and no loans are available and no social security, saving is the highest. And where loans are possible, so social security is there, people spend far more. But in initial stages of growth and development, any society needs savings rate. Because what is growth? Growth is how much you invest and at what rate of return you get from that investment. And how will you invest if you don't save? And India has huge savings. I think this year should be 3,50,000 crores. Of course, government eats away some part of that saving by its deficits. Right? So we have a culture of tolerance, skill sets, entrepreneurship, democracy, demographic, savings rate. Right? In the initial stage of growth, the savings rate is extremely important. And then I come to orderly evolution. We are all impatient. Most Indians are dissatisfied with India. What is this? Road is not made. Airport is not good. Right? Electricity is going. But sir, look at Singapore. Look at America. But sir, America has 250 years of of 230, 40 years of democracy, 230, 40 years of free growth, of pro-government. And America did not jump from a per capita GDP of $5 to $5,000 in 10 years, right? So everything has to evolve. Singapore doesn't matter, sir. Singapore doesn't have a hinterland as big as Pune. I'm not joking. If you want to tell me make Bombay prosperous, I can make it in 3 years. But what about the people who live outside Bombay, right? So let's not compare ourselves to the nation. So what grows and survives perfectly is what evolves. And India is evolving. And according to me, it's evolving in an orderly manner. I think look at the way our democracy is maturing. The chief ministers who are doing good work are getting re-elected, right? So I think, this orderly evolution, where at every stage of growth we are setting a faster pace. And we are doing it in a rate of growth which is not, in a manner which is not satisfactory, but according to me most sustainable. And then of course you'll have the takeoff. Only the problem is that the runway is like Bombay Airport. We don't know when the clearance will take. Right? So now, we have a confluence of reforms. See, they are acting and reacting on each other. If I do reform in telecom, it helps all the other areas. If I develop other infrastructure, it helps all. So these reforms act and react on each other. At the same time, the country is finding size, is finding its own feeling of confidence, right? It is being recognized internationally. The urgency is getting reinforced day by day. And therefore, finally, Bombay Airport will give runway clearance. I think we will be on the way to sustained double-digit growth. And I see no reason why post 2012-13 or post whatever expiry of this international crisis, right? Whatever form it takes, India should not grow double-digit. So I think this is the reason why I'm talking all this, that India economic growth, according to me, is going to be 8, 9, 10% until the end of the economic crisis worldwide. And then we are surely going to have double-digit growth. So if we have 10% or 9% nominal GDP growth, 5 to 6% inflation, with 15%, nominal GDP, right? I don't see any reason why corporate profit should not grow 17 to 18%. So I'm talking about India's inevitability because I want that 9% growth figure. I want to be confident of that figure. I don't want that 9 become 3, then 3 becomes 6. And I see no reason why it should in India. And I've tried to order out the reasons why I feel it is inevitable. I can't predict the time. Nimish bhai is already looking at his watch. Right? And why I say, one is you have the profit growth. Then what about the money? Who will buy? I was very bullish on public sector stocks. So the NDT fellows to ask me, but FIs don't buy, who will buy? I said, don't worry, if the girl is pretty, the suitor will come. Right? So, if India is going to have 15% growth, nominal GDP growth, right, you have a modernized trading system with dematerialization, and we have done dematerialization the fastest in the world. And I think today we settle our trades faster than the New York Stock Exchange. And we have done it in the last 5-6 years, right? We have corporate governance through market sword. Of course, in bull market, there is no corporate governance. Because corporate misgovernance is the product of bull markets. Because it's in bull markets when you lose all your senses and greed overwhelms you, right? We have effective regulatory environment. Just read the SEBI law. Once you read it, you'll stop trading all your life. We have insurance now, which is blossoming. And we have inevitability of FI investments. Where will they invest? Where growth is 2%, right, and rate of interest is 1%, or they will invest where growth is 12%, or 9%, return on equity is 17%, 16%, right? So the question is not whether they will invest. The question is only how much, right? And I think it's inevitable. It's a course. They have to invest. And they have become emerging markets, we have become developed markets. Because they have current account deficits. Yeah, it's a fact. They are now having socialist societies. because the state is controlling everything, right? So if you are going to have 15 to 20% corporate profit growth, you have effective regulatory environment, modernized trading system, huge savings. As far up till now, we are a tax paradise. We don't know after the tax code. No capital gains, short-term 15%, dividend tax-free. I have a friend in Dubai. I asked him, "You pay any tax?" He asked me, "What is that?" I don't know. So until now in the stock market, we can say that. But I don't know whether we will do it in future or not. Then the question is, why will money not flow into equity markets? See, this is the distribution of savings coming into equity market. This is RBI data, right? And post 2011 is my prediction. Now about 17% of Indian savings in 1991 came to equity markets, and it became 1.1% in FY05. It's RBI data, it's not my data. Only FY11 is my prediction. And if it goes back to 15% by FY11, what kind of money can you see in equity markets? See, this I made a chart, fund flow for equity markets. It's a complicated chart, but you are all MBA students. So better learn in life, also lead life, better learn to handle complications. So you know how it is explained that you have a gross GDP. You have a saving which goes up every year. Say nominal GDP goes up 13-14%. Then savings rate. That saving rates is going up every year because of demographic reasons. Because of that, the quantum of savings is going up. Then the quantum of savings coming to financial sector is going up because of education, because of availability, because of communication, right? Then the percentage of financial sector savings coming into the stock market is going up. So here also the flow of money to equity markets is inevitable. Nimish Bhai was telling me in the way that Indian mutual fund, Indian insurance companies are going to invest $20 billion in an equity this year. And that is one side Ganga. It only comes, it doesn't go back. So, if India is going to grow at 14-15%, Nimish Bhai, therefore it's my prediction that by 2011, $45 billion of local money should come into the market. And 2009-10, my prediction is 34 billion, right? It could be 4 billion, 5 billion, less or more, if you are going to have nominal GDP growth, right, which is for 15%, 13%, 14%. You have good trading systems. You have a blossoming financial services industry. You have inability of FI investment. You have huge money waiting to come in. Then why will the market not go up? This, in the short and long of it, is my bull case. A lot of people ask me, you are bullish. I don't know much. I'm not a professor of economics. I'm Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Share Bazaar, Road Shop. Leo Phatapat, Deo Phatapat. Right? Because I do trade also. Because no father gives, no father-in-law gives. How do I get the money to invest? So you have to trade, earn it, then invest it. No? Right? So this is in the crux, my bull case for India. And I have put my money where my mouth is. 100% of my assets, I would say 99.9%, 100% of my savings in life are in Indian equity. Right? That's my belief. I don't buy any land, right? And I don't have any investment in any jewelry. So that's my bull case. Okay. Now I want to go about personal investing. A lot of people are interested about investing. But what is this act of investing? How does it start? Why do you link investing only to the stock market? Investing can have various asset classes, no? So the first task of an investor is asset allocation. Should I put the money in debt? Should I put the money in equity? Should I put the money in gold? Should I put the money in land? Right? Should I put the money in art? So how do I allocate my assets? Right? I think I'll have to go to the right? Now, how important is this asset allocation? See, I had to do nothing in life. In 1971, if I had bought gold, in 1980, if I had sold that gold and bought the Nikkei, and 1989, I had sold the Nikkei and bought the Nasdaq, my return would have been 26% compounded. 26% compounded means your money doubles in some 33 months. So over a period of 30 years, your money will be some 40, 50, 60 times, right? So this is how important the task of asset allocation is. So the starting point of investing is where, just because Rakesh jhunjhunwala says, don't put all your money in equity, right? For any investor, okay? So your first task is allocation. And there can be courses and courses and courses on allocation. And it is the 60% result is your allocation of asset and 40% is specific asset in general. Am I right, Rakesh? Right? So first act is asset allocation. Second is the importance of consistency. Because we are having a lot of students from business families. I come from Agarwal Marwadi family, so we always say vyaj, 17%, 16%, right? And I'm proud to admit it here, I am trading roots, right? And why not be proud of your heritage? You can't change it here, right? So see the difference between a 10% return and a 15% return over 20 years. So when you allocate, when you hear that Warren Buffett's compounding, no? Marwadi का compounding और Warren Buffett का compounding same है. कि principal बढ़ाओ और हर साल principal खोनेगा नहीं और भले कम मिले लेकिन surely मिलेगा. Because missing 1 year also breaks you down so badly. So I wanted to point out the importance of asset allocation and of consistency. So don't go for too risky assets easily, right? Then second is choosing an investment. This is another boring long one. A lot of people ask me, how do you choose an investment? The most difficult adjective in the English language are beauty in a girl and value in a stock. It differs so much from the beholder, right? So how do you find value in a stock? Because for every buyer there is a seller. Some like Nandita Sen, some like Sushmita Sen, some like Aishwarya Rai. So, beauty has its own concept here. So it's so difficult. So, when I go to buy a stock, someone is selling it. So therefore that person feels there's no value in that stock. So how do you choose a stock? So see, the basic thing I will tell you is when you invest in a stock, think of the business model of that company. I'm talking of invest, I'm not talking of trading. Trading may think momentum. Here you think, when you invest, think of business model. Right? And I think the first thing I look at when I invest in a company is the opportunity. Would I have invested in Titan if I didn't feel that the jewelry market in India will go, from 5% branded to say 20% branded? And in 5 years, if 1 lakh crore is going to be the branded market, is the jewelry market in India, the branded market will go up from 5,000 crores to 20,000 crores. So it's a 15,000 crore opportunity. So, nobody can grow bigger than the opportunity. Think of Infosys. What would have Infosys been without the internet? Did Infosys in 93 know that the application of information technology will expand the way it did? But it happened and it expanded Infosys opportunity. So the first thing we should look at is opportunity. Look at infrastructure. What opportunity it is in India? Right? And of course, when you look at the opportunity, also look at the addressable opportunity. Opportunity infrastructure in India will be 25 lakh crores, but my company can only make water pumps. Only the unknowns, to make them knowns is difficult. Right? EPS is predicted to some extent. P is very difficult to predict. But as long as your companies are gathering earning, P can come in 3 months. Earnings can't come in 3 months. Say there was no growth in the corporate sector in the stock market between say 1999 and 2003. Very bad years. But once the market started moving up, the earnings were accumulating. You got the P's just in 6 months. So as long as the company's earnings are expanding, don't worry. Right? Be patient. अभी ले लिया फंस गए तो अभी क्या करेंगे? पेशेंस सुनो, कहाँ जाएंगे? Right? And make exit an important decision, not driven by profit or loss. I think very important. People want to bloody sell the flowers and water the weeds. So people want to sell the profitable investments and keep the loss-making ones. So I think every exit should be, and I have a slide on exit, should be an independent decision. Right? Exiting an investment. When would I exit an investment? First thing is I have limited capital, and everybody in the world, whether it is Tata, whether it is Birla, whether it is GE Capital, everybody has limited capital. So when I find that my asset, any other asset gives me rate of return which is better than what I anticipate on this one, I will exit an asset. I will exit some investment, right? Then review of critical factors. Suppose I feel that Titan's business model is affected, the growth will not come, or some other company is able to dominate, or the margins are permanently impaired, I may sell, right? Relative opportunity, as I explained the first one. EPS or EPS expectation peaks, this is very important. You know, in Infosys, in 2000, McKinsey and NASSCOM did a study that software industry in India is going to grow 100% every 2 years. So for 2 years, 3 years, Infosys profits grew 100%. Everybody assume for next 10 years it will grow 100%. So EPS should not peak, may not peak, but if expectation of EPS peaks, that could be a exit point, right? And absurd P's, because expectation of P is of absurd expectation, right? I think that's the time to sell. And remember one thing, it's not driven by profit and loss, it has to be an independent decision. Okay, sir. I think I'll pass this. You can read this on your own. This is what my partner has written for me. Fair enough? See, these are ethos. This I like to explain. Rare enterprises. Our first ethos is God's grace and elders' blessings. Because I believe that what we are in the world is not because what we are. We are what we are in the world because of the grace of God and the blessing of elders. There is a set of circumstances which have come together and brought us where we are. But those circumstances have not been necessarily created by us only, right? And they have been created by God, by elders, right? And therefore never get the belief that I am what I am because I am smart, I am successful. Never forget there is an upper hand, and that hand can go anytime. So I would say my biggest prayer is God's grace and elders' blessings, right? Then I have an aim to win all wars despite losing many a battle. Churchill has said, that you have to lose many a battle to win a war. I think you all must read his life, right? And I think in life, I'm married for 22 years. I must have shouted at my wife at least 220 times, or maybe 2,200 times. My wife would have shouted at me 2 times. But because she doesn't shout, she wins the war, right? She loses the battle of shouting, but she wins the war of my love and regard for her, right? I mean, I give you so many examples for trading. You made a mistake, lose the battle, move on. And of course, I have a motto, where the health is high and the mind is without fear. I don't want to do anything in life where my head cannot be held high. I have far lesser will than people think, but far more than I need. Wealth also has a purpose in life, right? So why should I do anything where I can't hold my head high? And that's why I don't manage anybody's money. Except my wife's, I have no choice. Because I don't want to be answerable to anybody. Right? And I must tell the ladies, I had a professor in law college in Sydney who used to say, as long as you are married to your wife under the provisions of the Indian Penal Code, you cannot be charged with raping her, but you can be charged with stealing her money. Right? So her money, his money is his money and her money is her money. Don't forget legally also. And then we have a logo, Rare Enterprises, green, compounding. Rare because Rekha is my only wife. And I am RA, Rakesh is RE Rekha. Right? And we have baseline, this my partner has made. insight, intellect, integrity. I don't know, I will tell you all things of my life if you are interested, I don't know. See, my father was a commissioner of income tax. I suffered a childhood sickness. I had paralysis of the leg and hand, and I had meningitis, and I lost my sight. I lost all my functions, and mysteriously, I don't know, they gave up. Then I'll knock off at 3.5. Then when doctor was there, did an operation, they found a tumor in my spinal cord, and everything came back. And I was always a very curious and assertive child. And I was the youngest in the family. Or chote hote hain khote. Right? So, and because of my sickness, my parents were taking special care for me. I went to school first in 2nd standard. Right? And my father always used to say, मेरा तो कोई business है नहीं. पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो कुछ कमाओगे. नहीं तो प्यून की नौकरी तो कहीं भी मिल जाएगी. Right? So I was a reasonably good student. I completed my chart. You know, my father was interested in the stock market. So he would discuss with his friends in the evening the stock market. So I tell my daddy, ये सब ग्वालियर का भाव, what are you all talking? Well, you see some news comes on Gwalior, the stock goes up and down. So you see, that's why the stock market moves. So, you know, at the age of 14, 15, some are interested in airplanes, some are interested in cricket, some are interested in girls. I got interested in the stock market. So I would read avidly about it. First I would read balance sheet. I'll say share capital, reserve and surplus. Oh, this is a good company. Right? I used to feel those companies were good, high share capital. And I used to wonder, these are like multinational companies, they don't have high reserve and high share capital. Why the price is so high? And all these Indian companies, they have such high book values. Right? Then I learned to read a balance sheet. I did my BCom, did my chartered accountancy. So 1985, my father said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to the stock market. So my father said, never do this. I'll never give you any money. Don't go to any of my friends. Right? You have a house here, you can live here. You are a chartered accountant. If you don't succeed in the market, you can always earn 15,000-20,000 a month. He gave me that sense of security. He said, never forget, your word is your bond. Be fearless. May God bless you. For He is the only blesser. No money. My mommy is saying, who will marry you? Going to the stock market, doing satta. Nobody will give you a girl also. I said, Mommy, don't worry, you'll have one less daughter-in-law to trouble you. Right? I went to the stock market, started. I used to carry a bag, go to the street. Anybody who always, father has taught 1 ear, 2 ears and 1 mouth, but never learned. So कोई भी customer मिला तो blah blah blah, Tata Power is good, this that. So I had humble beginnings, initial hurdles, like my mom, no capital. Then I have a brother, he's a practicing chartered accountant. He got me loans of 20 lakhs. One Goan person, his client used to work in Dubai, he gave me 10 lakhs and he won't take security. I went to his house, I said, Mr. Mendon sir, in the stock market, you give me 10 lakhs, I don't want to keep your money without security. Boss, kal main satta kar dega. I want your security. Actually, he won't keep it. Rakesh, he said, I have faith in you. I said, no, Mr. Mendon sir, you keep your security. That's how I started. 1985, boom. I had nothing when I started 5,000. In 1 year, I earned 25 lakhs. Paid 3-4 lakhs tax. I was the king of the world. Right? Graduated from smoking 4 square to 555. Right? Fortunately, found some girl, married her. My parents found her, I won't lie. Married her. Then 2-3 years, nothing. What to do? My father said, put a factory. So I went to Hyderabad. I had 20-25 lakhs I had earned. That I kept 20 lakhs, bought Tata Power shares and kept them. Right? Then my father said, I will come in the factory also. I said, Daddy, you are from the government service. You can come here once in 3 months, review everything, and you please stay in Bombay. He said, no, no. I said, I am going to Bombay. Right? So then I came back. You know, these were initial hurdles, but I had belief that no, I'll do well. And my father had told me, if you don't do, I don't, bola, kiska karna nahi. Don't take anybody's money, don't take any, and then by nature I'm very careful in money matters, right from childhood, right? So, I mean, I had 15-20 lakhs saving. I said, market will, you know, give opportunity. Then I met some friends, right? I met Radhakishan Dhamani, he took me to Nimesh Bhai, Ramesh Dhamani, Kamal Kabra, very good people and all well-intentioned people. So, you know, interacting especially with Radhakishan, I learned a lot of good things in life. My approach to market changed. I also learned on the job. maturity. I got maturity about markets. Then came Madhu Dhanwat. Then came this, you know. Again, I went to my dad in '89. Daddy, I said, I have 15 lakhs. You give me 15 lakhs loan. I said, you give me 1 year grace period. After that, I'll pay you money like a truck driver pays a monthly installment. My father said, no, I'll not do it. So I said, how to get the money? So I said, I'll trade. There's no other way. I had never done any speculation until '89. Right? But I knew it's the stock market's fire. Upon Mr. Mendoza का share ले लेवे, कभी सट्टा कर दे, boss, I'll go and commit suicide if I can't give anybody's money. Right? And then, you know, I did the initial trades. I learned the importance of capital protection. I paid 2.5 lakhs tax in 1985. I used to feel like a king. First, we never have money to go and have a drink here. 2 lakh ka tax ka check sign kar, you feel like a king here. Right? This was the initial phase. Then came the budget. Then I remember I made money in Sisago. There used to be one Mr. Bajaj. He used to explain to everybody, just like I used to explain Tata Power to everybody. Nobody would listen to him. And then when he explained the facts to me, I couldn't believe it. That, you know, in iron ore, the prices are fixed 1 year in advance, 6 months in advance. For the next year, already, you know, they had got a price rise of about 26% in iron ore, right? And there was considerable difference in foreign exchange rates between the last year and the current year. So next year was going to be a bumper year. And Sisago was 26 rupees. Nobody would listen to me. And Radhakishan Damani and Kamal Ka. So I used to explain to them. I was the guy who was convinced. I bought 3 lakh shares. I had 50 lakhs worth of Tata Power. I bought 3 lakh shares. Leverage, what is the rest? I'll go to 15 rupees. I'll sell Tata Power and pay it. And I'll tell Radhakishan and Kamal and they'll laugh at me. And the price went from 26 to 65 in 3 months. And from 65 to I think 2200 in 3 years. That's how I made the real initial money. And then came Madhu Dhanwat's budget. I remember Radhakishan had taken me to meet Nimish Bhai. People were so bearish, so bearish. And I was sure that, you know, and one thing that VP Singh will not give a budget will hurt the business community. See, he was the man who first reduced rates of tax, who abolished estate duty. And he was although he was a Thakur, he was a businessman. So I staked my life in that budget. Right? And I must have been worth 1.5 crores when the day of the budget, and I was worth 20 crores the next day. I staked my life. Right? And that's how I made the real initial money. Okay? Then, when we experienced the great, you know, I remember the index Teji started at 600. Then I think it went to 1800. Then came the Gulf War. Right? The index came back to 1100, 1200. And then came Mr. Mehta. The great Mr. Arshad Mehta. Right? So initially when the stock, you know, we bought ACC. I had taken delivery, I remember, of some 15,000 shares of ACC at 300. We sold at 2800, 2900, 3200, 3300. Price came back to 2300, 2400. Then it came back 3500. We all shorted. Then one cold afternoon, I all short and price. I went and cut all my shorts. Then we made money in the rise. And then we knew all this thievery money. When the market came down, we made the money of our life. And then, you know, trading, investing, cooking, it can't be taught. It has to be learned. And it has to be learned on the field. I mean, my mummy jo dal banati hai, my wife can't make. You know, she has seen my mother make it 100 times. Right? So it is something which is, you have to learn. Shorting and pyramiding we learned. I trade actively, boss. I'm not only an investor and all. My father has not left me any inheritance, so I have to earn and invest. Right? We learned shorting and pyramiding. We learned prudent betting, that how in, you know, markets you have to be very prudent. You learn to take a loss. Then, you know, I realized one thing in life which is very important. I think ambitions cannot overshoot market opportunity. I think what happens, look at Rakesh, you know, enough money, right? Let's put some industry. My wife will say, what are you doing it all for? Kuch kaam dhanda to tha nahi. Kya karte? Dividend income se jeete the, aaram karte the. No trading, investing when there's not much work, right? The importance of reading, experiencing and learning. You know, then when you introspect, you understand what you have learned, what you have gone through, right? Then participation in tech boom. You know, when I set up the software, I am illiterate as far as software is concerned. And all this young generation people understood, apne ko 97 tak samajh hi nahi aata tha. What is this software? Yeah? Never used a computer. I used to think it's garbage in, garbage out. In my CA final, I did not take computers. I never understood very weak technically. Then 97, 98 I understood. तो हमने भी थोड़ा बहुत हाथ मार लिया. Bought some tech stocks. Then, private equity. Everybody was investing in private equity. I also said I'll invest 20 crores. तो 20 करोड़ का कुछ मिला वापस 3-4 करोड़. पूरा तो नहीं डूबा. We never earned, but we learned. And I tell you, that was one of my most forceful periods of learning as an investor. Because I saw how actually companies, what are the problems, what are the unrealistic expectations, right? How entrepreneurs lose their minds, how competitive ability is just a myth, how there are Me Too companies, the difference between a real company and a Me Too company. It was a great education. I think that money lost was well lost, right? And then, of course, I made the biggest money of my life in the PSUs. I was very bullish on the PSUs, and I feel very proud. I started buying Bharat Electronics from 18 rupees. Today also the price is 1600. I have sold out, right? And I remember during the tech boom, people were buying all Penta, Himachal, Global. I used to buy all this PSU stock, Shipping Corporation. 20 rupees I bought, price is 24. I'm very happy. So I used to walk in the street of the stock market. So people used to say, Gada aaya, Bandhu aaya, buying PSU stocks. Share bazaar mein jo jeeta wo Sikandar. आप समझे ना? But that proved to me the biggest jackpot of my life. And this is a defining time. I realized in 2001-2 that India is on the threshold of a secular and structural bull market, and I wrote so in the Economic Times, right? I thought I invest in growth stories, concentrated portfolio, concentrated and diversified at the same time. I thought I had some maturity as an investor. Buy right, hold tight, exit in frenzies, right? Meaningful stakes. I want to invest stakes, where I have some, at least 1%, 2%, 3% in the company. I want to be a value-adding investor. Organization building, right? Until now, I was my company's damaging director, chairman, peon, everything. Then I got some people, try to make a team, right? I have 2 partners now. And then resisting temptations. Resisting temptation is very important. People will come, hamare share ka bhau. I'll get a call from my sister-in-law. See, this company fellow wants to meet you. Jijaji is very much interesting. Abhi kisko bhi na bolenge, abhi sali ko kya na bolenge, right? So I'll call them. You see, our stock, our earning is 50 rupees per share, but the price is only 120. So I said, your duty is to inform and perform. Perform and inform. Bola, no sir, I said, how can I help you? Bola, we will do market making. I said, what is this? So then they will explain, you don't understand. The price is 120. We will give you 10 lakh shares at 80 rupees. Then we'll hit the share and make it 160. Sometimes you think of the money involved, resisting those temptations. But I know that anybody who's tried to misbehave with a stock market or with a woman, the road is Hath and Jail. See, fire, stock market and woman, there's no difference. Never misbehave with any three of them. It's a learning of life, right? So I learned how to resist those temptations, right? And I have a lot of aspirations, and I want to share them with you, right? One aspiration is to be your age again, so that I could have the free mind, excitement, world at your feet, dating all the beautiful girls, right? First is institutionalization. I want to, and a perpetual view. See, I want my rare enterprise to live beyond me, right? And I want to institutionalize it, so it grows beyond Rakesh jhunjhunwala, right? And I'm making efforts. Then I want to trade and invest in other asset classes, maybe debt. Of course, I'm doing it in a small way. It's opened up in India now, right? Other geographies. It's a dream I was telling you which way on the way. That is the dream of my life. After India has capital account convertibility, to trade and invest all over the world, right? Of course, sab upar wale ke paas hoga nahi, who knows? Then I want to be an investor of choice. I want entrepreneurs to feel that and not by acting, but by actually doing things, by adding value to my investments, by adding value to the companies in which I invest, right? I want to do philanthropy. I believe the giver of this wealth is God, and He has cast this social responsibility that it must be used for good social purpose. And I don't want to give my children money beyond a point. I want to give them freedom and the right of choice. I don't know whether the mother will agree or not, right? I want to be deleveraged. but hota nahi hai. If I have a bank balance in the night, I can't sleep. If I pay interest only, I get good sleep. Right? Then I want to be a strategic thinker. So think strategically, think beyond markets, and I want to be people skill focused. And I'm trying to work on all of them. I need your blessings. And there's some student advice I would like to give to students. Right? See, one thing I can tell you, you can never achieve without dreaming. But dream with your feet on the ground and your head also on the ground. Not with your feet in the air and your head held down. So whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. Whenever you start anything, don't forget in life, all things big start small. At the same time, be practical. Right? Do something you love, this is very important. Do it with passion. I think I succeeded in markets, whatever level I did, because I love markets. I have a passion for them. They are my life. So do something that you love. Right? The means are as important as the end, never forget that. Right? Aspire but never envy. And the means are as important as the end, remember one thing. Don't comment on other people's integrity and means. And expect other people also not to comment. Aspire but don't envy. See, this is a very, very important thing my father taught me. See, my father, I always had rich friends. Right? My father always used to tell me, Rakesh, never ever give up the ambition of being bigger, richer than anybody in the world. But just because they are richer today, don't envy them. There is a difference between envy and aspiration. Envy means it becomes zealous. It becomes sort of jealous. Aspiration is that I want to be so. So I think there's a very big difference between aspire and envy. Right? I think also, Mr. Darwai taught me, learn to learn from success. In India, what people do, they bring down other people's success. They say, oh, successful hai, oh, chor hai, usne aisa kiya, usne waisa kiya. Darwai always used to say, success doesn't come easily. And respect other people's success and learn to learn from it. Right? Be paranoid of success, never take it for granted. Never forget one thing in life, my friends, that all adjectives in life are transient and temporary. Success, beauty, power, wealth, taste, right? So never take success for granted. And don't be surprised if it goes away. Be prepared for that day. You'll never be disappointed. Fight to have it, but be prepared. Right? Build a fighting spirit, take the good with the bad. Life is full of surprises. Some are good, some are bad. But resolve not to break down and be overwhelmed. And I will say, as I started life, I looked at an horizon. I used to dream of the day when I could earn 50,000 rupees a month. I thought, what, I'll be a king here. Right? So I looked at an horizon, it seemed so distinct and far. But only when I reached that horizon did I realize how many more there are. So thank you, friends. I can answer, I've been going blah, blah, blah for 1 hour. More than that, thank you so much for inviting me.